Om Shanti. Good evening and welcome to tonight's talk at Wembley Inner Space. The talk tonight is attention management, and I'll be speaking about that for about 40-45 minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of meditation also. My name is Jasu. I've been with Brahma Kumaris since over 30 years and presently based at Global Corporation House, doing all sorts of service. From the very beginning, I've been involved in office administration and then various other departments with a keen interest in decoration, flowers, cooking, especially loving doing creative stuff. Over the past 30 years, I've had many opportunities of doing lots of different types of things, helping me to become an all-rounder. And within this, really have to have had focus and attention on the things you need to do to be able to make sure that you get the result that you want. Okay. When you talk about attention management, first and foremost, my attention tonight is going to be on trying to speak slowly. I've often been told I speak too fast, and so I'll be paying attention to make sure that I speak slowly. Whilst preparing for tonight's topic, I was watching something on the internet, and I was just aware of how the person speaking was speaking very slowly, but at the same time holding everyone's attention. Being able to grab someone's attention and then hold on to their attention, not an easy feat, but still being able to achieve that because of the content that you have, because of the atmosphere that you create whilst you're speaking. So I was actually listening to what we call our spiritual discourse, the Murli, and I was watching the speaker, our supreme teacher, delivering the lecture. And in over 15 minutes, the amount that was spoken was just over half a page. But yet every word seemed so important. Every word was filled with power. And I was thinking, isn't it amazing the way our teacher is holding everyone's attention? The attention is drawn to every word because it's filled with so much love, it's filled with so much power, and it empowers each one. Every word spoken is positive, empowering the person hearing that word, making that person feel it's only for that person and no one else, even though it's spoken in a gathering of over 20,000 people. So to make someone feel so special, to draw their attention such that they feel they're the only ones that are being spoken to. This is the feeling that one gives to someone that they love, that you are the whole world for me, no one else matters. So the whole attention is given to the person whom you love. The other aspect of attention that I was thinking about was when you're actually doing something creative, especially when cooking. if you're cooking and you're absent-minded, then you can imagine what the result will be. You must have seen many people sometimes when they're absent-minded and they're making some tea, then instead of putting sugar in their pot, they end up putting salt in it. And so the person who gets to drink that tea, you can imagine what happens. Instead of drinking the sweet tea, they throw it out. So really to be focused and paying attention in what you are doing at that time. To be able to be so attentive to what you are preparing, who you are preparing it for, putting in the right ingredients. And you're able to do this because you're aware in the back of your mind that you are doing it for someone special. When you're doing something for someone special, you want it to be the best. And so you make sure that you're attentive to it. If your attention is drawn even slightly to something else, then a split second, and it's like the milk that was about to boil. You think, okay, it's still a while to go. And so you give your attention to something else. And in no time, the milk overspills. Just had that experience a couple of weeks ago. I was boiling some milk to make some yogurt. And at the same time, I had something else on the gas cooker. So I thought this is still going to be a while. So I put my attention to the second cooker where I was cooking something else. And before I know it, the milk has overspilled. And I was thinking, it's just a second ago I was looking at this and thinking it's a while to go. And so it won't matter. But just a while and the milk was spilled. Made me realize that I should have paid more attention to the milk rather than the other thing, which could have waited. So being able to tell what is it that needs your attention at what moment. The right moment to pay the exact amount of attention to something. When you speak of attention, often you feel attention is creating a lot of tension. In our spiritual teachings, we're often told that make sure you pay attention, but don't allow there to be any tension because of this. And thinking about this further, I was just thinking that there is tension in trying to keep attention because you forget the A. You remove the A, and instead of attention, it becomes tension. And the reason for this is A is for Atma, the soul, the awareness of the soul. So when you remove the awareness of the soul, when you are not soul conscious, then instead of being attentive, instead of paying attention, you create tension. And the more tension there is, the less successful you're going to be in whatever you're trying to achieve. When there's tension, the mind wavers, the intellect is not able to make the right decisions, and then you falter from what you are wanting to achieve. So being attentive, paying attention with the exact awareness of the soul, natural attention, instead of being stressed in paying attention. Often you think about what you need to do and you think, okay, I've got everything, and you don't focus. There isn't that concentration. Because of not having that concentration, it's as though your energy dissipates. The energy flows away from what you are doing. In other words, being present in the now. I'm going to stop here for a minute and allow ourselves to be present in the now, just for 1 minute, and then take this subject up further with an example. focusing on the self, on the spiritual being seated in the center of the forehead, paying attention to the self just seated on this throne. Om Shanti. In a way, stopping for a few minutes or even just 1 minute, this is the practice that we have throughout the day. We call it traffic control. But in that, it's trying to get back your attention to your inner self. Throughout the day, we have so many different tasks to achieve, to accomplish. And in that, our attention is drawn to so many different things. But every hour, stopping on the hour, it's time for us to get back our attention to what we really need to do. The physical things are just the things that help us along the journey. But our spiritual journey is being able to get to our original stage. Currently, our stage, the spiritual stage, has become so powerless. It's become so degraded because we've lost connection with our own self. And so every hour connecting with ourselves, paying attention to being connected to the self, it allows us to draw back that spiritual energy into ourselves so that we're once again able to become the powerful spiritual beings. Talking about being present in the now. I was just remembering the head of our organization, Daddy Janki, who passed away last year in March, but very much aware of how she always used to work, always being attentive to being present in the now. Throughout the day, she would be serving for 16 to 18 hours from early morning, and many people would come to meet her. During the time that she's meeting other people, often someone else would want to ask something to her. And Daddy would not allow this. The moment she has someone in front of her, then her total attention is on that person or group of persons, because they have come with their own personal problems, they have come with their own energy, and Daddy is there to serve them. So at that time, the only thing that matters is the person that she is serving. And so she wouldn't allow herself to be distracted for even a moment. So even though we might have needed to ask her something which was urgent, we would have to wait until she's finished serving that person, because it was important for Daddy to give her total energy at that time to the person in front of her. After she's finished serving that person, then she would give us her attention, whatever we needed to ask her for whatever we had to do to carry on the project that we were given. And so just seeing how important it is to allow yourself to be so attentive to whatever is in front of you at that very moment. I was also remembering how Sister Jayanti, you must have been watching many programs of hers on Zoom nowadays, and often she is on the Zoom about 7 to 8 hours. And so the concentration that's required for that and the topics that she takes is a wide amount of topics. But within that, every time she's in front of the Zoom camera, she doesn't allow herself to be distracted for a moment. Often I've been in the room where she's actually giving the lecture, and in that room there may be someone coming in, someone going out, but yet her attention is totally on what she is doing, the talk that she is giving, and so not allowing herself to be distracted. I know for myself, if I was giving a talk and someone was to come and walk around in this area, then immediately my attention would go there. And so there would be a few seconds of not knowing what you have to do at that particular moment because your attention is drawn to someone else in the room. But for Sister Jayanti, it was like total focus. And so even the eyes would not wander to the person that's walking around here. So I was really fascinated by that she has total attention on what she is doing at that present moment. Also not allowing the self to be distracted, like in the morning class, we have our morning lectures from 6:30 to 8. And the person sitting on the stage, there's so many things happening in front of that person. They're sitting on the stage and watching everything else that's happening around them. On the one hand, they're delivering the lecture that they're giving to the audience that is in front of them. On the other hand, they're watching everything that's happening. About 70% of the people are seated there, and some people coming in late. Some people, whilst they're sitting there, they're doing other things, and yet not allowing the mind to waver because you're seeing so many different things happening. Sometimes there's a scenario of someone having had an emergency attack, something happens to them, and so there's chaos at the back. But for herself to concentrate on what she is doing rather than allowing herself to be distracted by whatever is happening around the self. And so I think this is something that is developed over many years with a lot of practiced concentration, a lot of attention, letting yourself to waver, to falter from what is happening in front of you. I was just thinking that once in the middle of the class, a person had a heart attack. And so at that time, letting the person lie down there, but still not allowing there to be a chaotic situation, and having called for the ambulance, the paramedics and everything, but still continuing with the talk that had to be delivered. And so making sure that everyone's attention is not distracted by whatever is happening. The few people that need to pay attention to that situation, let them do that, but for everyone else to focus on whatever else needs to be focused on. So really paying attention is a matter of knowing what I need to be doing at this precise moment. In other words, to prioritize whatever it is that I need to do. This is all in terms of physical attention, whatever I am doing physically. But then attention also needs to be given to the mind, making sure that my mind is fully concentrated on whatever it is I need to be working towards. For instance, I set myself a goal that I have to achieve this stage by this time. Say by the end of the year, I want to have achieved this stage whereby I'm able to remain stable in the situations, whatever's happening around me. I don't get affected or influenced, but I remain stable. In other words, calling someone being as cool as a cucumber. I remember being given this title once when it was snowing and all of us were cleaning the lentils. And suddenly the snow started to fall, and everyone went out to watch the snowfall. I continued with cleaning the lentils, and afterwards my cousin said, God, you're like as cool as a cucumber, not even affected by whatever's influenced by what's happening outside, because everyone ran out to see what was happening, and you just continued with whatever you were doing. That was just a small incident, but it made me think about it. I love cucumbers, but I'm not sure that I wanted to be cool as a cucumber. But anyway, it was lovely that someone gave you a compliment, even though at that time I didn't understand it. Afterwards, I realized that it was a compliment that they're giving me. So anyway, to be able to focus on what you're doing, the journey that you are on, and not to allow yourself to be distracted from the journey. If you're traveling from A to B, what happens if you get distracted? You miss the exit, and then you have to go further. Again, this happened a couple of times when we had taken a small holiday just a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago. So instead of getting off at one exit, because the attention was distracted, there was conversation taking place in the car, and so I got involved in the conversation, and in listening to that conversation, I forgot to look at the map, and so I passed by the exit that I had to take, and so I had to go one further exit and turn back from there. So you can imagine how little things like this can take away extra time on your journey. And when there is total attention, then you save yourself from all of these kinds of losses, because extra time in a journey is extra time, extra petrol, and not just your time, but however many people there are in the car. So making sure that the driver is fully attentive to their destination, reaching the destination on time. Talking about the spiritual journey, how much attention do I have throughout the day, keeping in my awareness my destination, and then behaving or being attentive to that so that I don't allow my awareness to be distracted from that. At the end of the day, I want to reach that stage of perfection. And in order to achieve that, I need to practice meditation throughout the day, even whilst engaged in physical karma, performing physical actions. The more I focus on what it is that I need to do, the more I practice remembrance, and it is remembrance of the Supreme that is going to give me power, that is going to empower me at every moment. The more I focus on that remembrance, the more I prioritize whatever I need to do, the easier it's going to be for me to achieve that goal. If I have forgotten what it is that I need to do, I've forgotten my priorities, then I'll start doing something else. And then it's as though I've taken a sidetrack from the journey that I'm on. Instead of going on the spiritual journey from A to B, I end up going A to C. And so I'm not going to achieve what it is that I want. Remembering that at this moment, I want to achieve that stage of perfection. And so I need to be doing everything in that awareness as a perfect human being. So if I'm living that at this moment, then every action that I perform will be performed with that awareness. I remember one of the teachings taught to us was by our spiritual leader, Brahma Baba, the founder of this organization. And he always used to say, you are the ones who are becoming deities. And so make sure that you do not cause any kind of sorrow to even the earth that you're walking on. So when you're walking on this earth, walk with so much spiritual attention that you're not causing any sorrow to Mother Earth. You walk on it as though it's angels treading on earth. For angels, it said they did not even set foot on earth. They would travel from A to B just flying. So for the deities to be putting their feet on the ground in such a way that there isn't the slightest sound. Sometimes people walk and they're just thumping. When people are running around, then they're causing so much sorrow, inverted commas, to Mother Earth. But Baba always used to say, walk so lightly on the earth that no one even is aware that you are walking on this earth. To be walking so gracefully, so softly, that there isn't any kind of harsh feeling given to Mother Earth through that. So being attentive to what it is that I am becoming. I am becoming a person who is full of all virtues. If I am being that, becoming a person who is full of all virtues, then being attentive to seeing just the specialities of everyone. If I see their defects and weaknesses, then it says so I'm taking those on into myself. If I am seeing their specialities, I'm taking that onto myself. So what is it that I want to become? Full of weaknesses and defects, or full of specialities? The more I see someone's specialities and their goodness, the more I enjoy that positive energy to myself. And so I am becoming full of those specialities also. In this way, I am coming closer to my destination of becoming 16 celestial degrees complete, full of all virtues. This is the praise that is sung of the deities. And so being aware of who I am, what I am becoming. When I am becoming that, then my total attention is fully on that. So now I'm going to stop again for a minute, being aware of what it is that I am becoming. A spiritual deity, one who is a bestower of happiness. And so the attention now is to just spread vibrations of happiness into the whole world. First of all, creating that atmosphere of happiness around myself. So connecting myself to the Supreme, who is the bestower of happiness, taking that energy of happiness from him and allowing that to flow through the self, making myself a channel of that energy of happiness. Om Shanti. Just now sitting in meditation, the picture came to mind of the military people standing to attention. When they are told to be on attention, then each and every person, each and every soldier in the army is so attentive, and everyone has to be so attentive that they're all in the same position. And for the onlooker, someone who is seeing all the soldiers in line, it's a beautiful scene because everyone is perfectly aligned. So when we are told to pay attention, we also have to align ourselves. We have to align ourselves to the spiritual teacher and the teachings that he is teaching us. What he is teaching us, the basic lesson, to consider yourself to be a soul and remember me, the Supreme. And all of us have to be working towards just that, remembering that one being. But in that remembrance, each one of us is drawing from him whatever it is that we are specially wanting. What is it that I want to achieve for myself? When you're asked to pay attention, why is it easy for some to pay attention and not so easy for others? For example, a cookery lesson. Sitting in class, there's 40 students there, and some people's attention will falter because they're not interested. They're not interested in cooking, and so they won't be paying attention to it. But where you have an interest, then you will pay attention to that. You'll make sure that your full attention is given to that because you want to learn something. You're interested in that. And so the same here. We're told to practice meditation. But if someone doesn't have that interest, then they'll sit for 5 minutes, and then afterwards the mind will start wavering. The mind will go in all sorts of directions, and they won't be able to focus because there isn't any interest in sitting down for meditation. But I know in the early days when they used to practice meditation, this was when the organization was just in India before they started service, and it started outside of India also. But when they were practicing meditation, they would sit for whole nights. They would sit for a few hours at a time. And in that, there would be total attention on just the spiritual being, the point of light, because they had so much interest in themselves to just being connected to the One Supreme, being connected with him in such a way that the mind didn't think of anything else except the One Supreme, and then connecting it with him in all relationships. Connecting with him in all relationships so that you're able to take the benefit, the sweetness of all of those relationships from just that one being, not taking from all other human beings. And so coming to that stage whereby I am so interested in just this one thing that I'm able to sit there for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours without even allowing the mind to be distracted in any way, not a single thought of distraction. And really, it must be an amazing stage to actually have achieved that in those days. And so practice now is to be able to sit for even just 2 hours and to be interested in those 2 hours without nodding off, without dozing off, and to be experiencing that sweetness, to be experiencing such power, so that at the end of those 2 hours, you feel like you've been in a furnace, and the feeling of total cleansing from inside. That comes when there is total attention on the self, being connected with the Supreme. So that attention is possible when you have that interest. Otherwise, you're sitting there, and externally, yes, you're sitting there, but internally, the mind is in all directions. And so making sure that the mind is focused on one thing, focused on just one thought. And when it is focused in this way, then it's possible that you achieve that state of perfection, because the cleansing is taking place at the time when there is total focus. Otherwise, you're sitting there, but nothing is happening inside. The transformation that takes place within the self, the transformation of the sanskars, that the personality of the self that takes place, is only because there is total focus, total attention. Just like gold. Gold is able to be molded only when it's put into fire. When it's put into fire, it becomes soft and then it's able to be molded into any shape. In the same way, for my sanskars to be molded into any type of sanskars that I want. Currently, the sanskars have become so impure, and so I want to purify them. For that, I have to put myself into this furnace, into this fire. And it's only when I put myself into this fire of yoga, the fire of that connection with the Supreme, that I'm able to see that transformation taking place within. Often I think I've been practicing this for so long, so many years, and yet I'm not seeing the transformation. Sometimes it's difficult for the self to see that transformation, but others give you the certificate that yes, they're seeing that transformation in yourself. They're seeing a change in you. And so sometimes it's necessary to hear that from someone else so that you can actually look back inside yourself and see whether there is the transformation, whether you're able to see the transformation that others are talking about. Then it gives you an incentive to work further towards it. Otherwise, you feel, well, I'm doing all of this, but I'm not seeing any result. So necessary to be paying attention to what I'm working on, but not allowing the self to become disheartened in this way just because you're not seeing the transformation. I may not be able to see it, but others are definitely seeing it. And definitely, where you are giving attention to something, then obviously it is going to bring some result. If not today, then tomorrow the result will be visible. And so not to become disheartened in any way. Allowing the self to be attentive to what I want to do. Often it's like you are giving of yourself, sacrificing so much of yourself and not paying attention so much to what you need to do. And then some people think that you're not actually doing anything for yourself. But often it's doing things for others that is in return giving you the result for yourself. For example, if you're on the field of service, you're doing something to serve others. You're preparing a lecture to give to others, but in preparing that lecture, you're actually paying attention to your own self. Often it's said, practice before preaching. And so when you're setting out to preach, or even just to give a message, then you have to practice that before you give the message. And so in this way also, you're being attentive to yourself. You're giving attention to yourself. And it's a natural attention. And an attention that is there because you're enjoying doing something. So the more you're enjoying doing something, the more you're going to want to do it, the more attention you'll pay to doing it, and you'll get so much more multifold result from that. But if you're doing something half-heartedly without paying attention, then it's going to be like a burnt vegetable dish or a burnt spilt over milk. That's what you're going to get. And so being careful to pay attention, doing something from your heart with that total attention, the total focus, and then you'll see how you'll be able to reach your destination even before time. They say pay attention so that you're able to do something before time so that you get the credit for it. If you achieve something according to the time, when the time is finished and then you achieve it, then the credit goes to time. But where you are paying attention and you do it before time, then you are the master. It says that you're the master of time. So paying attention to becoming the master, becoming the creator, becoming the bestower. The master then creating something not just for the self, but for everyone else, so that everyone else gets the benefit, just like a farmer or a gardener. The farmer is planting the seeds, sowing the seeds, so that he's able to give the benefit of that to so many people. A gardener looking after his garden, tending to his garden, so that he's able to create that beauty in the garden, which so many people are then going to enjoy. So the attention is paid by just one person, but then the result of that is enjoyed by so many people. It's like they said, the daddies used to churn this knowledge. They churn the knowledge and extracted the butter, and we are enjoying the butter that is the fruit of their churnings today. So the attention was paid by just a few of them, and today we're reaping the fruits of so many of their hard work. And so, seeing the benefit of that, you feel like you want to do more of it, because you're doing it alone by yourself, but so many people are getting the benefit of it. And just remembering, yesterday I was watching something on the internet, and it was an 80-year-old lady who was dancing. And she was asked if she thought she was going to become the winner of that competition. And she said, well, to me, it doesn't matter whether I win or not. The main thing is I give happiness to the people who are watching me. And so I was thinking that that's what I would want to do. Rather than thinking about winning the competition, I would want to just give happiness to people just observing me. And so attentive to what you're doing, so that you're able to give benefit to other people, you're able to give happiness to other people. And so really enjoying giving attention to what you're doing. And in this way, you're able to benefit so many people. And just leaving this last phrase with you, the last statement, could go a lot more into meditation and paying attention to that. But again, just the awareness that when you're paying attention, you need to be fully aware of what your priority is. What is it that I need to achieve for myself? When I have prioritized, there's so many things that come in your way that you need to get accomplished by the end of the day. And if you haven't prioritized, then you'll give attention to something else, and what needed to be done first gets left behind. And so very important to pay attention to actually discern what is it that needs to get done first. So do that which needs to get done first, and then do the other things. Then in this way, you'll find that everything gets done in the right order. Otherwise, the order is changed, and whatever needed to get done first is left till the last. And then it happens that at the last minute, you have to rush to do it. You have to rush to accomplish it. And then there isn't that focus or attention on that. So making sure that it's fully attentive in that way, being fully attentive to my priorities. Just like you don't plant something in summer for something that needs to be planted during the winter months. Because if it's planted in the winter months, then you can see the fruits of that emerging in March, and you see the beautiful blossoms. When you put the bulbs into the earth at the autumn time, then in March you're going to see the beautiful blossom. But if you start planting the bulbs in March, then that's actually not the right thing to do. So paying attention at the right time, being aware of what I need to do at this time. I think there's so many pointers that's been given about doing the right thing at the right time, being focused on your attention, being fully concentrated on what you need to do. I think the only thing that remains now is putting into practice the things that we have been hearing for so many times from so many people. And so I'd like to stop here and wish all of you a very beautiful journey for yourself, enjoying paying attention and enjoying the fruits of that 1 second's attention of the self, giving benefit to so many people. Now I'm going to stop here and practice. We're going to go into that state of meditation. And again, I'll just speak a little bit of a commentary, being attentive to where I am seated, letting the self be relaxed, feeling joyous at where I am right now, connected with myself, connected with my body, and yet detached from the body. Letting there be a feeling of lightness within the self, being aware of the point of light within myself, seated on the center of the forehead, spreading the energy of happiness, joy, and love. Although paying attention, not having any tension about that, but being fully attentive to just being. So often you get caught up in just doing, you forget to be. So now our attention is on just being, and in the being to carry on doing. So when I am being, I am a being of happiness, a being of love, a being of wisdom. When I am that, then everything I do is filled with these qualities. I enjoy spreading that happiness, being a bestower of happiness, giving happiness to each and every one, because I am happiness. I am happy myself, and so I'm able to give that happiness to others. If my mind was to be filled with thoughts of sorrow, then that's what I would share with others. So rather than having thoughts of sorrow in the mind, keeping the mind light, filled with joy, filled with thoughts of happiness, so that I'm able to share that happiness with everyone. Letting there be just love flowing from the self. All I need to be is just the embodiment of love and shower love on each and every one. Everyone is thirsty of love. Everyone is hungry for peace. I am a being of peace and a being of love. And so now let me just feed everyone this peace and love. There's no nourishment like the nourishment of happiness. And so let me just be happy and share that happiness with everyone. Just now, sitting in this state of happiness, being connected with the Supreme, the one who is the bestower of happiness, the remover of sorrow, the bestower of happiness. He has taken away all my sorrows, leaving me completely free, completely light. And so now, let me just be a being of happiness, a being of truth, a being of love, a being of purity, a being of wisdom. Om Shanti. So, in essence, we had a few tips about how to manage our attention. So, just like to summarize, first and foremost, to pay attention. To pay attention without any tension, with a state of soul consciousness. Secondly, not allowing the mind to wander. Focusing on the self, concentrating on the self. When there is total concentration, you're able to achieve your task easily and successfully without wasting time and energy. Without concentration, time and energy is wasted and you don't achieve the result you want. Focusing on your priorities, making sure you do the right thing at the right time. Not starting to prepare for dinner before lunch is prepared. Same as with a gardener, not sowing or planting the bulbs in March when you want to see the flowers in March. Most important of all, to pay attention to the self. Because when I'm paying attention to myself, then not only do I benefit, but I'm able to give benefit to those around myself also. This is not being selfish. Many people say if you're just attending to yourself, then you're being selfish because you're not looking at others. But really, I just have to look at myself and concentrate on what I need to do for myself. And this will benefit others too. So putting myself first in this instance is what I really need to do. Lastly, as there's so much attention on doing, I now need to shift that attention to being. Instead of being a human doing, I have to be a human being. And in this, what I'd like to be is an embodiment of happiness, an embodiment of peace, and an embodiment of love. So with that, I'd like to leave all of you with this feeling of just being happiness, peace, and love. Om Shanti. Wishing you all a lovely good night.